Ladies and gentlemen, before we start this video, I want to say with a very heavy heart that those of you that may know Iridium 242 because you're subscribed to his channel, were asking during last night's live stream with myself and Grayman Prepping that what's happened to him because he hasn't been on for a while. Well, yesterday I received a message from Grayman. He did a little bit of research and he found out that unfortunately almost a month ago or so, Iridium 242, i.e. George, he passed away. He had a massive heart attack and passed away in the middle of the night. So I just want to publicly send our condolences as a community to Iridium 242. I'll call him Iridium 242 because that's how I first knew him. I want to send our condolences to his family. And I just want to say that he is going to be very much missed. He is like one of the very best review YouTube channels that I've ever come across. Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Happy Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you got a good start to your week yesterday. Thank you very much to all of you that joined in on our live stream that we have every Monday with Grayman Prepping. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this kind of ticks me off, but it's a battle that we've been fighting for a while now. And I'm going to show you how out of touch these people are as far as wanting to make us stop eating meat. Something that we've been doing as humans since the beginning of time. And you would think that this would come from like the World Health Organization or the UN, but this comes from the World Bank. And I'm going to tell you why I think that this is coming from the World Bank, because it's going to affect how it is that they want to stop us from consuming more meat or any meat whatsoever. The World Bank says red meat eaters will pay for climate change. Well, haven't we already? Where has all that money gone, World Bank? I will revisit a subject that I've talked about in the past, and that's that after all of the money that's been extracted from humanity for this green climate thing that's been going on for the last decade or two, we have not stopped using one drop of oil less as a world. So as a world, we have increased our usage of oil by roughly 25% in the last decade. Why is it that we are still increasing our use of fossil fuels, i.e. oil, when we've put so much money into green energy? Where has all that money gone? Well, now they want more money, ladies and gentlemen, because what we've already given is not enough. So you better be stocking up on your meat products just in case it gets a little bit worse before it gets better. And here they start off by saying that a new report from the World Bank called for an increase in the price of dairy and red meat as a way to force meat eaters to pay for climate change. This will supposedly help the production of low carbon foods. Have you ever seen the people at the World Bank, at the Bank for International Settlements? Have you ever seen any videos of these people talking? They're not talking in a t-shirt that says freedom on it like I am. They're talking about how they can better control your actions by doing what? By taxing you even more, by stealing from you or coercing away from you your wealth, what you worked into existence, while they do what? They write regulations, they write what they think can become laws in countries that adapt their nonsense, and they also coerce banks and companies into going along just to get along. Now, before I continue, I have to say that every single thing that I am saying and have said so far on this video is purely my opinion and for your entertainment purposes only, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not saying anything bad about the World Bank. This is just me acting. The global rulers insist on continuing to blame meat, a source of food for humans, for millions of years. For the so-called climate change, they continue to ram down our throats. You know what? I'm always complaining that YouTube doesn't push out my videos like it used to, and it's my own fault. Look at what I'm talking about. The exact same thing that they want us not to talk about. So ladies and gentlemen, give the video a like, please share with someone, let it go all the way through, because that really helps with the algorithm, if it does at all. But I think that it does a little bit. And if you really want to support what I do, let 1 or 2 of the ads run all the way through to about 30 seconds, because that really helps, and it helps with the algorithm as well. Let's carry on. The World Bank has now called for resources to be allocated away from the production of red meat and dairy in order to focus production on low carbon foods. Why did I highlight that area? How are they going to get resources away from people that grow red meat? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I've been talking about ESG for a very long time now. Now, for those of you that don't know what ESG is, I won't give you the full history of it, but it's kind of like a compliance metrics that the United Nations came up with. They pretty much said, well, there are some countries that have a constitution that's ironclad, like ours, the United States of America, and there's ways that we really can get away, the government, that way they don't have to go away from the Constitution or break the laws in the Constitution, but private companies can. So we're going to call it SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, which makes it sound really, really good. Well, the Sustainable Development Goals turned into ESG, Environment, Social Governance, and that's pushed down to big corporations, especially banks, that can provide resources, just like it says on this article, to people that actually grow red meat and meat in general. And then how are they going to be able to operate when we live or operate in a system, economic system, that is credit based? So if a rancher, let's say for example, can't get credit to run his ranch and make that red meat or grow that red meat that we so much enjoy, then how are they going to be able to stay in business? Well, if the big banks are in cahoots with the United Nations, with this ESG thing, check this out. Do you think that they're going to be giving out loans like they used to the ranchers that provide us with the meat that we want, that we enjoyed, that in my opinion we need? Look at this. These are not little banks. JP Morgan, Bank of America, ICBC in China, China Construction Bank, Wells Fargo, Charles Schwab, Morgan Stanley, right? And then a few other Chinese and Canadians and Indian banks. These are big banks. And why is it that they have an ESG score tracker? Because their ESG score matters. For some reason or another, it matters because they have to be able to satisfy their overlords, not we the people, those that they are committed to serving. And of course, what is their objective? What it says right here. It would lead to an increase in price for those who still eat an ancestral diet. What does that mean? That they, the policymakers, will still be able to afford the price of meat, where you and I, the average Joe or Jane on the street, will be eating those bug burgers that they so much love to promote. In a new paper, the World Bank noted wealthy nations should switch from a high production of red meat and dairy, which they claim produces high levels of carbon dioxide, which is an essential nutrient for plant life. Without carbon dioxide, ladies and gentlemen, you can talk to any scientist, we would expire. There would be no human beings or no animal life whatsoever. Right now, if I remember correctly, the last time that I looked at it, the parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere was about 420 or so parts per million. Well, we start losing life at about 150, 180 or so. We start losing life. And 420 parts per million is really nothing compared to what it's been in the past. They just show you the charts that they want you to see for the time periods that they want you to see. They pretty much just cherry pick it and say, oh my goodness, look at how much the CO2 ppm has gone up in the last 100 years. But they don't show you the other 50 million years before that, before humans were even industrialized. And then how is it that the carbon levels were so high back then when we had no industry? But they're so low today compared to then when we do have industry. I digress. We have to stop destroying the planet as we feed ourselves, says Mr. Lampietti, the World Bank's manager for global engagement in the bank's agriculture and food global practice, told Politico. In a time in our world where there are more hungry people than there have been probably in our lifetimes or in our cohort, they are telling us to produce less food. Why? That is the question that I have. Oddly enough, this news comes not long after the announcement that bird flu has magically started to infect cattle. Imagine that, ladies and gentlemen. If we fall for this again, It will be our fault. But what I would say is this: make sure that you're prepared. Make sure that you put away canned meats. Make sure that if you have a freeze dryer, you're probably already of the mindset that you're going to be putting away stuff for long term. But if you don't have these fancy equipments, freeze dryer, if you can't afford to buy freeze dry foods, you can still pressure can your own meats. It's not very expensive to do to get started, and it's just buying meat and pressure canning it with a little bit of salt. That's how easy it is. Put it away, because these foods will last for years, if not more than decades, as I have shown you from my private stock. Ladies and gentlemen, you still have time to prepare for this. I do believe, as I've often said, that in the end, good will prevail over evil, but there will be a time of suffering in between. So get ready now if you haven't started. Now, there is some good news in this fight with ESG. Leading U.S. banks leave ESG Project Finance Group. Why? Because banks, ladies and gentlemen, are in the business of what? Making money. Just like any other business, they are in business to make money. And this ESG thing they've found is not profitable. They don't care about you. That's what you have to understand. These banks don't care about you. They're going to do what's going to make them money and keep them rich. So in a way, it's kind of good that this ESG model is really not working out for these big banks. Maybe they'll get their heads out of their sixes and start loaning these ranchers and farmers money again in the quantity that they used to, so that we can get our meat production up. Because right now, our meat production, ladies and gentlemen, especially beef, is at one of the lowest levels that it's been in a long time. And to give you a perspective, ladies and gentlemen, as to what it would mean for any country to use less fossil fuels, i.e. emit less carbons, it would be a direct correlation to your standard of living. So take a look at China. China in 2024, I think per capita, they use 7 or 8 metric tons of carbon per person, right? Which equaled a total of 11,472. I think this is in billions or millions, something like that. But you can see the numbers. The US came in number 2 at 5,000. India came in number 3 at 2.7 thousand. Russia, 1.75 thousand. Japan, 1,000. Germany, 674. Why am I showing you this? Let me show you why. Let me see if I can get this side by side for you all. Let me show you real quick the top 5 countries' GDPs last year. The number 1 was the United States. Number 2 was China. Number 3, Japan. 4, Germany. 5, India. Russia is all the way down here in number 8 place. And I believe the reason they're using so much carbon in the last year is because of the conflict that they got going on. But what am I trying to tell you? That without energy, there is no economy. There is no GDP. So it would stand that the countries that produce the most carbon are the countries with the highest GDP. Why? Because in order for us to function as a society, we need energy. And without energy, we would have no GDP. So the less energy that we consume, the lower that your standard of living is going to be. So it's very easy for these very rich people to say, hey, you have to stop doing this. You have to pay more for this or more for that, because it doesn't matter to them how much it costs to live. They have more money than what they would need in 10 lifetimes. And one last challenge that I make to this CO2 theory, and I'm not a scientist, I'm just trying to use my common sense, and maybe I'm wrong, but let's look at it. Carbon discovered on Jupiter's moon Europa. Does it increase chances of finding life? Now listen to this real quick, because this is very interesting. The James Webb Space Telescope discovered carbon on the surface of Europa, an ice-covered moon of Jupiter. And they think it came from an ocean of liquid water beneath the ice. Here on Earth, all life is based on carbon and requires water. So this means 2 of the essential ingredients for life may exist on this distant moon. And to finish this one off, it says down here plainly that carbon dioxide is thought to be seeping through the ice cracks continuously, say scientists. So where are the people? So if you want to trust, ladies and gentlemen, that these people are doing this for your own good, you are very well mistaken. They're doing it to have more control over you. The more that you can be taxed, the more control that they will have over you. A tax is nothing more than a way to manipulate your actions. And here they say that the full cost pricing of animal source food to reflect its true planetary cost would make low emissions food options more competitive, the report said. So what they're saying pretty much is that if people stop eating meat because they can no longer afford it, that it will encourage them in a way to transfer over to other low cost options. What do you think that is, ladies and gentlemen? The elimination of red meat from humans' diet has been shown to be a disaster for human health. Amen to that. As ultra-processed foods make up the majority of about 60% of most Americans' diets anyway, and most of their micronutrients come from carbohydrates. They have gotten fatter, I can attest to that, dumber, and sicker. The ruling class understands this. There is no desire for those who control the slaves to make sure that they are healthy. If humans all got healthy, the entire system would crumble. It's being held up by constant need for medications supplied by who? Big Pharma. Those who aren't healthy are likely to want the simple fix, which is what? A pill or some kind of medication. And they really don't want to look at themselves and what they eat as a problem. Carbohydrates, they say, even those whole food versions like rice and grain, are often extremely cheap at grocery stores, making them an easy choice for the slave class. I have to say this again. I am not a medical professional. I am not a professional of any kind. I am just giving you my opinion and what this article says. So YouTube, please take that into consideration when you review this video. As the dollar continues to be eroded, more and more will flock to these types of food to save money, only to watch more to go on medications to treat metabolic dysfunctions and chronic inflammation diseases, because it's going to keep you sick, it will keep you dependent, and will keep them in control. And unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, most people, they just don't want to hear this. Think about this. What is the ingredient of a ribeye? Just to say, what's the ingredient of a ribeye? It's beef. What is the ingredient of a T-bone steak? It's beef. One ingredient, and that's it. And then ask yourself, what is the ingredients in one of these plant-based burgers that they sell you? You're going to see what the ingredients are. And most of them are ultra-processed, which turns out to be worse for you than the stuff that they're trying to get you to stop eating. Have a great day. Thank you very much for joining in, ladies and gentlemen. God bless every one of you. God bless America. I'm Alaska Prepper. I'm out.